Lesson 27. Above all else, I want to see. Today's idea expresses something stronger than mere determination. It gives vision priority among your desires. You may feel hesitant about using the idea on the grounds that you're not sure you really mean it. This does not matter. The purpose of today's exercises is to bring the time when the idea will be wholly true a little nearer. There may be a great temptation to believe that some sort of sacrifice is being asked of you when you say you want to see above all else. If you become uneasy about the lack of reservation involved, add, vision has no cost to anyone. If fear of loss still persists, add further, it can only bless. The idea for today needs many repetitions for maximum benefit. It should be used at least every half hour, and more if possible. You might try for every 15 or 20 minutes. It is recommended that you set a definite time interval for using the idea when you wake or shortly afterwards, and attempt to adhere to it throughout the day. It will not be difficult to do this, even if you are engaged in conversation or otherwise occupied at the time. You can still repeat one short sentence to yourself without disturbing anything. The real question is, how often will you remember? How much do you want today's idea to be true? Answer one of these questions and you have answered the other. You will probably miss several applications, and perhaps quite a number. Do not be disturbed by this, but do try to keep on your schedule from then on. If only once during the day you feel that you were perfectly sincere while you were repeating today's idea, you can be sure that you have saved yourself many years of effort. Above all else, I want to see. This lesson is showing us how strong and prevalent our resistance can be to doing work like this, to doing the spiritual practice, to doing the course, to looking inward, to self-reflect. Why is that? It all really comes down to the ego, and that the ego doesn't want you to self-reflect because that would mean that you might find out that the ego's lying to you, that it's not real, that everything you've been fed by that part of your mind is taking you down a path that is not really your highest self. So you might reflect and find your higher self in there. And the ego the game is all about separation and distraction. Hey, look over here, not over there. Don't look in here. It's about what's out there. It's about my brother. It's about what they did. It's about that look on their face. It's about the tone in their voice. It's about them. It's not about you. Don't take any responsibility or question anything or challenge or confront anything, because that would mean you were challenging and confronting the ego, and eventually you would realize it has no power over you, and then it would be abolished. So it's all about its own self-preservation. Resistance often stems from the ego's instinct to protect itself and regain control. This lesson is challenging us to look beyond our usual perceptions, and this feels threatening to our ego. The resistance is normal, and that's why we do the mind training. That's why we do the course. We're going to be met with resistance, and for our whole lives, because all things are lessons God would have us learn. If there's a lesson to be learned, if there's some discomfort, upset, resistance, fear, then we have to overcome that in some way and practice. So we will have resistance, but overcoming that is part of the journey. This reminds me of so many students and clients I have that have had that resistance to doing the course, to doing the workbook, to applying the principles in their lives. And they want the outcome. We all want the end outcome, the happiness, joy, peace, and love. But the means to it, we are met with resistance from our ego, because some of these lessons can be really hard in life. But the lessons in the workbook aren't hard. It reminds me of a case I had just this past week where a client said to me, I asked her, "Are you doing the workbook?" And she said, I'm not great at it, and it's just so hard, and I'm not very intentional or consistent with it. I just can't get into it. And I want to say that this is very common. It's very common. I had resistance in doing the workbook at first, and you work through that. I mean, it's actually applying it and doing it that breaks through. It's like working out. It's like physical exercise. We don't want to do it, and then we look forward to it because it feels really good once you start doing it. Just put on your clothes, put the music on, put the workout on, and start doing it, and you will warm up and get into it. So there is a warming up of it. Just open the book, and Jesus says, just use these exercises, just use these lessons. And that's what I told that client. That's what I tell my students. Do it. Try it for 30 days and try to be consistent for 30 days. Do you want a miracle? Do you want miracles? Or do you not? Above all else, I want to see. What do you want? What does it say? It's something about your desires, if you really mean it, in this lesson. And, so we know what we don't want, and that leads to knowing what we do want. We know what we want, and that leads to knowing what we don't want. So what do you want? Do you want miracles? Do you want happiness and peace? There's a little bit of a routine and ritual and discipline that you have to go through because your mental muscles are not used to this because your ego is trying to actively push you away from this. And it helps to understand that that's where the resistance comes from. And then at a certain point you get it and you're like, okay, I'm not going to let that part of my mind sabotage my personal development and my purpose here in the world anymore. I want miracles. So I told my client this. If a physician told you that all you need to do was do this stretch for 5 minutes a day and take this medication at this time of day and then this time of day, and you will be healed and you will be at peace, and all of the inflammation and chaos and pain and suffering will be healed. And it's going to take this long to do it, and just every day be consistent and do it. Would you look at the physician and say, it's just too hard. I don't think I can remember to do it. I just can't be consistent with that. I just don't think I can take that pill every 12 hours and do that 5-minute stretch. It's just too much to ask for healing. No, you wouldn't say that. So often with the physicality, the material world of form, our ego doesn't have any problem with that. So there's not any resistance that comes up. It's the metaphysical that the ego has a big problem with. Because like I said before, it doesn't want you to question. It doesn't want you to self-reflect. It doesn't want you to dig around in there and see what's really going on to get to that root cause. So consider me your metaphysician, and I'm telling you that doing the lessons and doing what they say, that what the exercises say, is your prescription for miracles and healing. The healing of your chaotic mind, the healing of a chaotic life experience, and the healing of a chaotic, savage, fearful world. It's not too much, and you can do it. There is a beautiful part in the workbook that says, with each 5 minutes that you spend with him, he will accept your words and give them back to you, all bright with faith and confidence, so strong and steady that they will light the world with hope and gladness. Is 5 minutes too much? Every half an hour? Above all else, I want to see. Do you really want it? Do you really want to see hope, gladness, peace, love, happiness. If you want it, you'll do it, just like with anything else. So keep going, miracle workers, and I will see you tomorrow doing the lessons.